Hi everyone, I'm Pat Prokop, retired broadcast meteorologist and at times amateur astrophotographer with this Tropical Storm Nicole update for Wednesday, November 9th. Tropical Cyclone Nicole is very near hurricane strength at the time of this recording of the video early afternoon on Wednesday. It very well could be a Category 1 storm by the time I upload it. But currently, Nicole has winds of 70 miles per hour. But that's not the main issue here. Since this storm started out as a broad subtropical storm, it has a large outreach of tropical force storm winds, 400 miles to the north and east of the center. So with that being said, let's go to the computer models and take a look at the dynamics of the storm and see what the threats will be. And right now, it's still not looking good for southeastern Georgia and eastern South Carolina. Here I am with my website, savannahpat.name, and here you can get a lot of great weather information. And right on the top, I have the links to the National Hurricane Center, and there you can get all the graphics and everything that you need, looking at the warning cone and the path of the forecast path of the storm itself. There it is right at this time. This was the 1 o'clock advisory. And more importantly, though, I have other information on here. Let's take a look at the radar from Miami, Florida, and it's showing the center of the storm now over the Cayman Islands, and there it is right there, and the rains are moving in to cross southeastern portions of Florida at this time. Now, if you go to the my website, you'll be able to get these live radar reports. I also have a radar report centered in and around the Savannah area, which is not showing much, but it does show you the winds. And these winds are updated every 20 minutes. So, for example, 45-mile-an-hour wind gust on St. Simon's Island as of a little after 3 o'clock this afternoon. All right. Here's the satellite view, and it shows the storm Nicole over the Cayman Islands, northern portions of the Bahamas, and moving toward the west. You see a large area of cloudiness associated with the strong fetch of winds associated with this storm. Again, the tropical storm force winds, 39 miles per hour or greater, extend over 400 miles to the north and to the northeast of the center of the rotation, which is right down over here. Another satellite view showing a closer view shows the storm showing very strong convection developing on the west side of the storm right now, and also on the north side, and it's beginning to wrap around. Again, looks like an eye is trying to form. Looking at the infrared satellite imagery, there you can see some very cold cloud top temperatures at the moment. This morning there wasn't all that much. This thing has really flared up. It's over the warm waters of the Atlantic right now, where those water temperatures are in the upper 70s and lower 80s, so it has a lot of fuel to work with. And again, it's moving off toward the west. So with that being said, let's take a look at the forecast model, and there it is this afternoon, moving in toward the west. Let's back it up in time at the beginning. There it was earlier this morning, and now it's forecast to move just to the south of Cape Canaveral, Florida, around the Melbourne, Florida area, making landfall in that region there, and then continues to push off toward the west-northwest, well north of Tampa now. It's a little bit farther north than what was expected in the last couple of days, but still within the ballpark. And then it scoots right across the coast of the northwest part of Florida, and then into extreme southwest Georgia as a decaying tropical storm. But here we have very strong pressure gradients on the east side of the storm. And once again, it's this area over here that generates mostly the strongest to severest activity in a tropical storm when it's in the southeast United States. In other words, this is where you're going to find a lot of the rain squalls, which are brief periods of very intense rainfall, and some of those squalls will have spin up short-lived tornadoes, and those tornadoes could have winds 70 to 100 miles an hour easily for a short period of time. But if you're in the path of that little storm, then it's major. And then as we go into time, the storm progresses northward, riding up the Appalachians, and it's going to be drawing a lot of moisture up in that region. Also, this is the map showing the winds, and we're showing that continued strong fetch of easterly winds flowing in across the Georgia coast and the South Carolina coast and the upper portions of the Florida coast. Now, the central and the southern Florida coast, the winds will be turning southward, and this time is what? This is 11 o'clock on tomorrow morning, Yeah, 11 o'clock Thursday morning. So expect the morning high tide tomorrow to be very, very high. As a matter of fact, looking at the tide value from today, I'll go back to my website and go way down near the bottom, and you got the tide anomalies right over here at Fort Pulaski. That's the Tybee Island area. And this morning it maxed out right there at about 9.5 feet. All right, yeah, 9.5 feet. But right now the low tide is 3 feet, about 3 feet higher than what it should be. So yeah, that 2 to 4 foot high tide for tonight and for tomorrow morning looks pretty favorable for that will be happening. All right, back to the computer models. Let's look at the forecast precipitation. And there we have a lot of precipitation across central and southern and eastern Florida, well, a large portion of the Florida Peninsula. And then as we go in time, by 12 o'clock Saturday morning, actually that's 12 Zulu Saturday morning, that's sunrise. Let's look into 2 o'clock, by 1 o'clock Friday afternoon. We're seeing not as much rain as we first thought, but still seeing 1 to 2 inches of rain common across this area, maybe up to 3 inches of rain. And I want to look at the forecast rains. I have it right here on my website for our local area. And if you go into the precision forecast data, that's from the National Digital Forecast Data, and it shows the forecast precipitation over 12-hour periods for the next 3 days. And this is for the top part is just for the greater Savannah area. And there you can see 7 a.m. Thursday to 7 p.m. Friday, well over an inch, almost 2 inches of rain in many locations, then another 3/4 inches of rain at night, and then some lighter rains on the day Friday, with total precipitation values of nearly 3 inches forecast. They might downgrade this a little bit later on tonight. If you scroll down, then you get into southeastern Georgia counties. And for example, Waycross, you would expect more rain there, and sure enough, 3.36 inches forecast by Saturday morning before it all said and done. And then further southward, you have the South Carolina areas of the Beaufort, Hilton Head, Ridgeland region, and into Hampton County as well. And this covers this area. For example, Hilton Head, Rose Hill, yeah, 3 inches of rain possible there, nearly 3 inches at Sun City. So a lot of heavy rains expected across this region. What about the winds? I got that too. Clouds and wind, if we look at that. The wind gust in the 30 mile per hour range to a low 30 mile per hour wind gust throughout the greater Savannah area, and throughout a large portion of southeastern Georgia. A little bit stronger along the coast at St. Simon's Island, as you would expect, expecting 40 mile per hour winds or greater gust in that region. And across the Hilton Head area and Beaufort County area, we're also seeing some moderately strong winds, 30 to 35 miles per hour. So going back to the forecast map, we're looking at the forecast rain. Well, not only for the southeast United States, but this storm is going to go right up the Appalachians, and that's going to dump a lot of rain across those areas. We're looking at 3 to 4 inches of rain, maybe pockets of 5 inches of rain in the mountains. Of course, that will produce considerable flash flooding in those areas. So, not just the southeast, but if you're living in the mid-Atlantic coastal states or in the northeast, in the New England states, you got to keep an eye on this system very tightly as well, because you could be an event for some major flooding by the end of the weekend. This map goes all the way up into sunset on Saturday. The main threat period will be tonight through Friday, with the greatest threat period from early Thursday morning through Friday early afternoon for our area of coastal Georgia and South Carolina. The threats include those flooding high tides, damaging winds, and very heavy rains, and possible short-lived spin-up tornadoes embedded within heavy rain squalls. A high surf will generate moderate to heavy beach erosion throughout the period, with waves around 5 feet in height at times. There is a storm surge watch and warning for the Georgia coast. Here's what to expect in terms of storm surge flooding. By the way, flooding along the Georgia coast usually begins at around 9.5 feet. That is where this morning's high tide level reached. From the southern coast of South Carolina down along the Georgia coast to the Altamaha Sound, the surge will be somewhere around 2 to 4 feet. South of the Altamaha River, that surge could be up to 3 to 5 feet. So what you need to do is you add the surge value to the actual natural tidal height. Here are the possible tidal surge heights around 8 o'clock in the morning and 8 o'clock in the evening. Now for Beaufort County, 9 to 10 feet on tonight. For Thursday, 10 to 11 feet, and Friday, 9 to 12 feet. For Chatham County, tonight, 10 to 11 feet, Thursday, 10 to 12 feet in the morning, and then on Friday, 9 to 11 feet in the morning hours. And for Glenn County, for tonight, 10 to 11 feet, Thursday, 11 to 13 feet, and on Friday, 9 to 10 feet. The tides could be lower or higher, but you should expect the levels somewhere in and around these values. There'll be a threat for very heavy rains and damaging winds Thursday and Friday, particularly in the coastal counties, with lesser amounts further inland. Rainfall totals could be anywhere between 2 to 5 inches, most likely about 2 to 3 inches in most areas. There will be a threat for brief, short-lived tornadoes with intense rain squalls, particularly Thursday night and throughout the day on Friday, and particularly over southeastern Georgia and eastern South Carolina. It's very important that you do not focus on the exact track of the storm, since it is a very large, broad storm with hazards extending well to the north and east of the center by about 400 miles, which is outside the cone of the path and will affect much of the Florida Peninsula, Georgia, and South Carolina. And then from there, it'll affect a large area of the Appalachians over the weekend, all the way up to New England, with the potential for flooding rains and flash flooding. But the bottom line is to be prepared. And part of that preparation will be to expect tree damage, scattered power outages, and coastal flooding, particularly Thursday and Friday. If you like this video, please hit the like button. And if you haven't already subscribed, please consider doing so. And after the storm has passed, I'll be posting my weekly weather and sky video with the focus on what is viewable in the nighttime sky, along with images of the heavens as viewed through my telescopes, and some gardening tips as well. You can follow me on my Weather and Nature Facebook page as Pat Prokop's Weather and Nature page, and on Twitter as Pat of Savannah. Yeah, that's who I am, Pat of Savannah. And on my website, savannahpat.name. And on my main YouTube channel, Heavenly Backyard Astronomy. On my website, I have live radar data, which is following Nicole, and links to the National Hurricane Center, and links to the weather briefings from the local National Weather Service's offices in Charleston and in Jacksonville. Please continue to monitor this storm, particularly if you live in the southeast United States and in the areas of the Appalachians. Definitely flash flooding is likely in those areas. Until next time, though, see you right here on YouTube.